Anybody has anything what came up with the questions about Dhamma that's come up? Anything you're going to ask me? We've been teaching the Four Noble Truths now. Suffering went for 2 days. Today we're going towards the end of suffering. Anyways, what we're going to do is I teach a little bit, then we're going to have again a tiny bit. By the way, the tablet is here. The online question tablet is here if you're looking for it. So we'll continue, and I teach a little bit, then we meditate a little bit, then we ask questions, talk a little bit, and so we continue again for hour and a half in the morning, hour and a half in the afternoon. So like I said, we're starting now again from the Eightfold Path, or coming to how to end the suffering. I read a little bit from Bhikkhu Bodhi. So the Four Noble Truths constitute a logical unity, similar to a formula a doctor uses to treat a patient. So the doctor does a diagnosis. A doctor identifies the illness. This corresponds to the first truth, where the Buddha sets out the basic affliction of human life, dukkha, suffering. Then the doctor identifies the cause for the disease. This corresponds to the second noble truth, where the Buddha traces the problem to craving. We went through the craving yesterday. Then is the prognosis. The doctor determines that the cure is possible. This corresponds to the third truth, the cessation of suffering. And then the prescription, which we are going to start now, the doctor prescribes a course of treatment. This corresponds to the fourth truth, the Noble Eightfold Path. So that's what we're doing now. That Buddha actually called himself a doctor. In some places it's quite interesting. So now we're going through what the doctor prescribed. And the doctor prescribed the Eightfold Path to end all suffering. And it starts with number 1, right view. And how do we know what is right view from wrong view? After my parinibbana, some will think that Dhamma has ended and you no longer have a teacher. This is wrong. After the Buddha's parinibbana, the Dhamma and discipline, Vinaya, will be your teachers. Suppose someone were to say, friends, this is the Buddha's teaching, the Dhamma and the discipline, and that I heard from myself from the Buddha. Then you should check the person's words with the suttas and with the discipline. If they agree, then you should conclude that this is the teaching of the Buddha. If it disagrees with the suttas and the discipline, then you should conclude that this person has wrongly understood the teaching of the Buddha. Or suppose someone were to say, friends, I have heard this from the community of senior monastics with distinguished teachers, from many learned elders who uphold the tradition, from one learned elder. Then you should check this person's words with the suttas and discipline. If they agree, then you should conclude that this is the teachings of the Buddha. If it disagrees with the suttas and the discipline, then you should conclude that this one learned elder has wrongly understood the teaching of the Buddha. So again, this is the basic class of Buddhism, so I will try to explain everything carefully to everybody. Here, the word parinibbana we discussed about yesterday, a little bit of that, and the word there is nibbana. And before that comes the pari. So the parinibbana means the ending of all things. So the Buddha, or anybody who's an enlightened one, i.e. meaning arahants, those are, when they die, they go to parinibbana, or parinibbana happens. We consider it like a candle. When the candle is burning, we can see that there is a candle. We can see that there is the wax, the wick, and the flame there, and it's like, okay, perhaps we have a candle burning in front of us. We know what it depends on. It depends on the wax and the wick. Similarly, if a fire burns, depending on if it's log, we say it's it burns because of the timber there. If it's grass, then it's like its grasses are burning. Whatever it's burning, we see it's burning. And then when the flame goes out, you don't ask questions like, where did the flame go? That is the meaning of parinibbana. Nibbana is extinguishment, but that is a person still alive. But pari means ending of everything. The parinibbana has happened to a person who has ended everything. So it is like the fuel has ended, like a flame going out. You cannot ask the wrong type of question to ask, where has this person gone when they have parinibbanat? You can ask that kind of question. So after the Buddha, who discovered Buddha, meaning somebody who has discovered these teachings of the Dhamma, the teachings, or the truth of all everything. And then the second word there is discipline, vinaya. Vinaya is interesting word. It comes from a word which means like a training. To vineti, you would train a horse. These days you would probably don't train so many horses, but you could train a dog. So you vineti your little doggy. Just sit down. Don't chew my sandals. That's how you vineti your dog. And the same way for us is obviously the monks and nuns. We have a different kind of vinaya, and the vinaya it is considered actually for the sangha. That's what really makes the sangha. You follow the vinaya. For you, the vineti would be more of that. You are training according to the Dhamma. Obviously, you have the 5 precepts quite often. As if you're Buddhist, that's your vineti that keeps you. So vineti is like you train in sila, and sila means you train in. I like to translate it kindness, goodness of your heart, purity, morality, training rules, however you want to call vinaya, you're training in. But you're really training in kindness. You don't hurt yourself and you don't hurt anybody else. That's what your training is. So if somebody says that these are the Buddha's teachings, well, you should compare it really ultimately for us. It always should go to the suttas, really. So try to keep, you do your best to, you either studied yourself or you go to the sutta classes and you compare what all the other teachers are saying, and then you just sort of, you look at them, you observe this, and it's like, oh, are they saying the right thing? Ajahn Mudito, you said this, but Ajahn Brahmal is saying like this. Okay, well, I don't know, maybe, what do you think the suttas say? The problem is, really, if you claim to say that this is absolute, this is how it is. It's basically you saying, if you say I know Dhamma, what you are saying that you are already a stream enterer. Somebody who really knows the Dhamma, knows the teachings, has to be a stream enterer or above that, meaning they are on a path to be enlightened. So I would say be either careful with teachers who are, saying that they claim to know it, that this is the truth, this is the only truth, don't listen to anybody else. Be careful yourself to get arrogant about, like saying that I know Dhamma, I know how it is. You're saying this, but you argue. It's always okay to ask questions, but this kind of thing where if you get arrogant about things, it's not a good sign. It means that, you could be enlightened, but I don't think you would be arguing too much. So anyways, these are the words here. And so always compare the teachings, whoever is teaching, what the suttas are saying. The only problem there perhaps that sometimes there's a lot of different kinds of interpretation of what the Buddha was teaching, and sometimes it's difficult to know it for yourself. But look, I know you can trust. If anything, you can really trust Ajahn Brahm as a very, very good understanding, so you can trust him. And like the good thing about we know him, the idea here as well, maybe go back a little bit into that, the idea of Vinaya. We can observe somebody like Ajahn Brahm. And the Buddha said, somebody asked the Buddha, like, how do we observe a teacher? What should we do? How do we know somebody is a good teacher? How do we know somebody is further in a path, really, even? And the Buddha said, go to the crossroads. And you go to the crossroads and see the monks are coming for Pindapat, coming for alms round, and observe them. And if you observe them day after day, week after week, month after month, and you see them, they're behaving a certain way, then you get a better understanding if they are behaving according to the Vinaya. Are they following the training rules? And then these days, perhaps you don't see on the crossroads enough time, so what you should do is come and live with us. Come and spend time. It's like, and then you start observing, like, aha, that monk is behaving this way, and that monk is behaving that way. And so that really is a way to know if somebody is on the path. Because it's really difficult to know. Like, maybe somebody's not a good teacher, but at the same time, they could be very kind way they behave. Or somebody is a really competent teacher. They give good speeches and they can elaborate all kind of Pali words. But you don't really know until you live with them, they really have that kind of, do they embody the teachings, so to speak? What does it mean to embody the teachings? They would be a very kind person, very generous, they wouldn't have anger, they don't have lust, perhaps that's difficult to know, but even just that observing them and they never seem to have any anger is a really good sign. So again, it was like to really know somebody is to live with them. And you know, if you have a partner, you live with them, they don't change overnight. If they are, you know them, they are a compassionate person, you can trust them in that sense. And look, for me, having lived with Ajahn Brahm, it's one thing I can say, I can trust him. I can really trust him that he doesn't scold others. And he's a really, really easy person to live with. Wrong view. What now is wrong view? There are some who state, whatever is called sight, hearing, smell, taste, or touch, that is impermanent, unstable, non-eternal, and liable to change. But what is called mentality, mano, or mind, citta, or consciousness, vijnana, that is permanent essence, stable, eternal, not subject to change, the same forever and ever. Do you know anybody who's got this kind of wrong view? Most people have this view. I'm sure maybe we should change one of these words into soul. But what is called soul, that is permanent essence, stable, eternal, not subject to the same forever and ever. Normal view, what most people possess. I'm sure there's going to be something there. There's going to be a core of me. Sure, everything else changes. My body is getting older. I can see that. Yeah, sure, I can see that my mind there's like thoughts coming and going. Yes, sure. The thoughts are coming and going. Maybe that's not the self, that's not me. But deep inside, I'm sure there must be something core inside of me, which is me. Meaning soul. Buddhism? No, that is a wrong view. Wrong view. There is no eternal state, stable. So that doesn't exist. And going back into Libet again with these words here, we have mano, citta, vijnana. Don't give them too much meaning. Don't speculate too much about this. But Buddha gave a lot of synonyms, and they have perhaps a little different kind of meanings when you go into the suttas and you start going. What I started when a couple of days ago, I was saying that when you look at the word, you cannot just look at a word and take too much meaning of that. You have to look how it appears in a sentence. So if you look at the word consciousness. Well, it appears in different sentences. It appears in different parts of the suttas, whereas the mano itself doesn't appear so often. The mind, chitta, is perhaps discussed more about when you talk about like the mind is defiled. You have defilements in the mind, for example. We talked about when we had the gradual training workshop, and I was talking about how we are trying to when we meditate, we are trying to purify this kind of mind state, so to speak. And that's perhaps then we use more of the word chitta. Quite often in Thai, they use just talk about chitta. Chitta, they talk about more like the heart. So you could translate it that, that's your heart. But it's not like a core self. Vijnana it's more really perhaps getting very, very close when we talk about this idea of soul, that perhaps I shouldn't tangle myself too much into it, otherwise I might say something wrong. But somebody like Ajahn Brahmali could explain it really well. But again, these are more or less just synonyms. These are this is the language what the Buddha used. If you say these days, like, my boyfriend left me, my heart is broken, nobody would say, like, oh, poor you, go to the doctor really quick. Your heart is in pieces. It's just the language, how we use the language. And so think about it in the same way here. And what is the right view? Okay, let's see. Next page. Boom. Dim, dim, dim. Dum, bum, bum. I have to make these noises. Right view. The Four Noble Truths. Right view, it is to understanding of the Four Noble Truths. What is suffering? Or suffering? Really understand suffering. The origin of suffering. The cessation of suffering and the way of practice leading the cessation of suffering. This is called the right view. Yes, so to understand suffering. If Ajahn Brahm asks you, do you know suffering? What should you answer? No. Tell them no, I don't understand suffering. If you say, yes, I understand suffering, what are you saying? You're a stream enter. You're enlightened one. Careful what you're claiming. Like, yeah, I know suffering. No, you don't. Because if you would say, I know suffering, you basically are getting out of here. If you really know suffering, you're getting out of here as fast as you can. Your head is on fire. I know suffering, therefore I want to get out of here. Now it's sort of like, yeah, I know suffering, but it's not that bad, Like, okay, sure, I get old, but I can take medicine. It'll be fine. It will be fine. Everybody else is getting old, but he's like, yeah, sure, but life is still good. So we sort of know suffering, but really to penetrate into the suffering is to meditate deeply, and then you see that sabbe sankhara dukkha, everything in this existence, everything which is conditioned, it is suffering. So careful what you say. I'm giving you all the right answers, right? I'm like, if Ajahn Brahm asks you, it's like, I know, there's a trick question. Do you know suffering? No, like, no, I don't know suffering. I know because I've told the wrong answers myself. That's a problem. He asked me this question. I was like, because I'm a connoisseur of suffering. I can dwell on suffering. I was like, oh, wow, I've really seen a lot of suffering in my mind. But I don't really know it. And that's the unfortunate thing. That's with wisdom. The good and the bad. What are the good and the bad, and what is their cause? Venerable Sariputta, Buddha is one of the main monks at the time of the Buddha. Sariputta, then we have Mahamoggallana, Ananda, very unique key monk. Sariputta was one of the ones who could really analyze the suttas. He had a very analytical mind. Sariputta says, intentional killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, malicious gossip, harsh speech, useless talk, Desire relating to the five senses, ill will and wrong view, these are bad, the bad. Wanting, aversion and delusion, these are the causes of the bad. Refraining from intentionally killing living beings, stealing and sexual misconduct, from lying, malicious gossip, harsh speech and useless speech, having contentment, loving kindness and right view is good. Renunciation, compassion and wisdom are the roots of the good. Interesting thing here is the roots. Everything is conditioned, right? It's not like you just sort of like good things come. When you have, okay, well, let's go with the bad first. When there is wanting, when there's aversion, that's really, aversion is all kind of like pushing it away. Aversion is always very close to those hatred, but it doesn't have to be that deep. And delusion, you don't really understand what you are doing. These are the causes for you to have wrong kind of speech. It's interesting that the Sariputta, for example, here, it doesn't say have all the 5 precepts, for example. You would think that they would always use the same kind of formulas, right? We have killing here, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and then we have this long list of speech, and then they have desire to the 5 senses. That's the kamachanda. You really want to be. Ill will and wrong views. These are like the causes for things. But it's interesting. Why don't we have, for example, alcohol here? Alcohol is sort of like, it's part of the 5 precepts. As a good Buddhist, stay away from alcohol. Bad. That is a cause for bad. But it's not really the root cause in that sense. These are sort of I wonder if I'm explaining it well enough for you to understand, but these are what, the root causes of this kind of starting of not just, it's almost like the rebirth process, what the Venerable Sariputta is reflecting here. So renunciation and compassion and wisdom are the roots of good. So these are the opposites of, like, the delusion would be wisdom. Compassion is the aversion, and wanting is renunciation. So instead of like wanting for life all the time more, what can the life give me? You just sort of are more renouncing. This is good enough what I have. You're dwelling more and more with compassion. You don't have for everything and it really starts from yourself. That's why I always like to say compassion, loving kindness, all of these beautiful states, they start with yourself. If you have aversion towards yourself, you don't know what compassion is. You really don't. That's really is the root cause for compassion, is compassion towards yourself. Like I said yesterday, if you don't have money in the bank, you cannot give. What happens? You're going into debt. That's a simile for metta, loving kindness. So if you have money in the metta bank, then you can give because you know what you're giving. It's the same with this compassion. These are all coming together, sort of similar kind of things. Compassion, if you really start seeing the suffering inside of you, the compassion arises naturally, and then you have compassion towards others. It is true compassion. Wrong kind of compassion is that you look at people and you sort of look above them. Oh, you poor thing. You are above them, so to speak. That's not the right kind of compassion. Right kind of compassion is that seeing that we're all in the same boat. We're all the same. And that's the compassion of what the Buddha have. Right view regarding the 5 components of existence. You view your body as impermanent, suffering, and non-self. Not me, not mine. This is not a permanent essence. You regard experience as impermanent, suffering, non-self. You regard perception as impermanent, suffering, and non-self. You regard the will as impermanent, suffering, and non-self. You regard consciousnesses as impermanent, suffering, and non-self. That is the right view. We went through these 5 components of existence. This is describing what makes you, you. Describes, the body is easy to understand. Yes, body is me. But, well, not you. Sorry, it's not you. Body doesn't belong to you. That's what the Buddha is saying here. Your body is impermanent. It's ever-changing, unreliable, you could translate. It is suffering because there is sicknesses, old age and death in the body. We can see that. So therefore, it's not self. It's not mine. It doesn't belong to you. Otherwise, you could say, my body's sick. I don't want my body to sick. And the body would be healthy. That's one way to look at it. And the next ones, the experience, perception, will, like a free will, and consciousnesses are also changing, ever-changing, and they don't belong to you. It's non-self. That is the right view. And to get to the right view, we are now talking about the first part of the Eightfold Path, right? To get there, you have to get to the end, meaning this is the 8th path of the Eightfold Path. That's what I discussed yesterday is jhanas. So people say, like, we talk about meditation. Meditation per se, what we talk about colloquially, this kind of like, when I meditate. Are you doing the 8th path of the Eightfold Path? No, you are doing the 7th part of the Eightfold Path. That is the right mindfulness. This is what you are practicing, in all honesty. Most times when you meditate. You could get into the 8th part of the Eightfold Path, Samma Samadhi, right stillness, Ajahn Brahms like to translate. But what the Buddha is referring with this right stillness is the jhanas. You can argue about that, and there are scholastic monks who say, Samma Samadhi doesn't have to be jhanas, but I don't know. I trust with what Ajahn Brahm and Ajahn Brahmali are saying, that they are saying, no, it is the jhanas. But you could perhaps argue that it could also, when you look at how carefully how it's constructed, that it could be meaning just like not so deep stage of meditation. But really, again, to understand these things, the right view, all of these things that is suffering, is impermanent, suffering, and non-self, you have to get into the deepest stages of meditation, jhanas, the last part. So you can think about this Eightfold Path. Now we're in the first, 8th is the last, but it's like a round thing. It supports each other. It's sort of like, there's a beautiful feedback mechanism. When you just have a little bit of insight, you understand a little bit of, it's like, I should talk kinder. When you have a little bit of deep inside, you see, there's a lot of suffering inside of me. From there, wisdom arises. You have more compassion. Everything works together really nicely. Unprofitable questions. Don't despair, we're not going that much longer. Unprofitable questions. If anybody should say thus, I will not become practicing Buddhist until I discover whether this universe is eternal or infinite, finite or infinite, or whether my permanent essence and my body are the same, or my permanent essence is one thing, but my body is another, or whether the Buddha persists after death, whether the Buddha does not persist after death, both persist and does not persist after death, or neither persist nor not persist after death. That person would die before they find out the answer for all these questions. Suppose a person was shot with the gun and medics would come to help them. Then that person said, hang on, wait a minute. Who pulled the trigger on that gun? What type of gun did they use and why did they shoot me? Moreover, let me see your medical qualifications. I will not let you treat me until you answer all these questions. That person would be considered to have wrong view and might die before the questions were answered. Therefore, one who seeks their own welfare should attend to this injury first, this trauma of unhappiness, pain, and suffering. For one with the view life, meaning universe, is eternal, the holy life, meditation life, Buddhist life is without meaning. There's no end of suffering, whatever you do. And for one with the view life is not eternal, again, this holy life, this meditation life, this Buddhist life is without meaning. Your existence is going to end anyways. Whether one has view the universe is eternal or the view universal is not eternal, there is rebirth, there is old age, there is death, there is sorrow, crying, pain, unhappiness and distress, the destruction of which are prescribed in this very life. What is the common question? I have a problem believing in rebirth. Can I still be Buddhist? Can I be a meditator? What is the Buddha saying here? Don't worry about it. You don't need to, you're not going to come to this idea of how much you speculate of it. See it as suffering itself, that kind of doubt. It doesn't matter. I can see suffering here and now. I can see suffering in my body. I can see suffering in the bodies of my loved ones. Just that's enough. I can see that mentally they're suffering. I can see a lot of mental suffering in me. Therefore, I need to practice. But again, the Buddha uses here this, that there is a rebirth, there is old age and there is death. But you can end all of that in this life. But like I said, what I quoted from Bhikkhu Bodhi's speech is that Buddha described himself as like a doctor, that there is this injury, the trauma of unhappiness, pain and suffering. So we talked about suffering for a long time until we're going into this how to end the suffering. But we talked about what all these different sufferings in life. And that is the point of Buddhism. The suffering is there. Whether you choose to look at it or not, it is there. Quite often we just gloss over it. It's I'll be fine. Rebirth, life is good. But when you start considering that you have to do this again and again and again, and this suffering never ends. And it's just not for you. It's for all your loved ones. You're going to be all separated from them one point. So therefore, it pushes you along further in the path. And it's I want to end all of this. And this is what we are describing here on the Eightfold Path. Okay, I think it's a good time to take a little break before we go into the fetters. So we'll take 10 minutes break. You can meditate. If you want to discuss, please do it outside so people can have quiet time here. So about 10 minutes and then we'll continue. We're getting close to the end of the meditation again. Just bring your awareness back to your breath and just see the breath going in and out of your body. Look at the breath like it's your friend, with kindness. Now just breathe in 3 times, in and out, after which you can open your eyes and come back to the world. That's the end of the meditation. And now the chit-chat part. Any comments, questions? Wow.
Ajahn, what did you just do? Is that question online?
Ajahn, I just wanted to let you know I've also added 3 to the iPad. It might take a moment to sync though once you've opened it.
Okay, yeah, no problems. Yeah, anyways, wait.
Ajahn, it's about the Buddha's advice for the lay disciples and monastics to take the Dhamma and the Vinaya as their teacher. For lay disciples, you said the Vinaya is called Vinyata?
Vineti means to train.
Vineti.
It's just, I'm just saying that it comes from the word of, the word Vinaya comes from the Vineti, to train.
Training, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a word.
Yeah, so you explained some points, okay, what they are. How would you add a few words, please, about how you take them as your teacher? How you use the particularly looking at the lay disciples, how do you take those as your teacher, please?
You mean the 5 precepts? Or?
Including 5 precepts and other things that you mentioned.
Well, what should I say about that? It's just like you trained yourself, right? You practice in Buddhist, so to speak. And that's the key idea, that you are practicing Buddhist. Yeah. You don't just meditate. It's not enough. You know, so you would understand for yourself if you consider like, I'm a practicing Buddhist. What does it mean? It means that you are training yourself to be a kinder person, a generous person, forgiving person. You're training more and more compassion. What do you think for you it would mean in your personal life? You're saying, I'm practicing Buddhist. What does it mean for you?
It changed my lifestyle and changed my behavior towards myself and others.
Yeah, and also you could have continued with the work, but then instead of you just sort of like, no, I'm going to retire. That's good enough. I have enough, right? You practice in that sense. It's also, I mean, it is true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were just sort of like, well, why do I continue working? Like that, this is good enough. I have enough. Enough, basically. That's what you're saying. And then so like, well, I dedicate more time with the Buddhist society and practice meditation and all that. That's how you practice. That's your vineti. That's your training now, and you are doing it.
Yeah.
So and it's for people. You know, everybody takes it in different kinds. Perhaps you work part time, or instead of it's like you take time off here and there. You go to meditation retreats. That's how part of the training. But sure, it really is part of that kind of like, even the Vinaya, even the Sila is part of your kindness of your heart is part of that, the kind of training, that you protect your kindness and value it. You make more, make sure protection is a big thing, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Ajahn.
Sure.
I suppose having Kalyana Mitra, another good thing about having Kalyana Mitras, you watch what others are doing as well and learn from that, I guess.
Yeah, of course. Having good friends, noble friends who are practicing well themselves, and then you say like, well, that's how they practice, and you emulate from there, and it inspires you, and because you spend more time with them, why you want to behave well, and that's, you spend time in a monastery as you do, and with us, and you straight away you want to emulate that kind of behavior.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Ajahn, so it's just a comment. So just now you mentioned about Samma Samadhi.
Yeah.
Obviously I learned that from Ajahn Brahm and Ajahn Brahmali, but they taught me precisely from Majjhima Nikaya.
Yeah.
It's actually defined very clearly by Venerable Ananda. After the Buddha's passing away, people asked, I went to him as a senior elder, I said, what is Samma Samadhi? He said very, very categorically, is the 4 jhana and the arupa attainment, full stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, full stop, yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, thank you for the comment. That being said, I know there's scholastic monks who have said that, look, it has that meaning, but it could have other meanings as well. Meaning it could be just different parts, but without, nitty-gritty. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Good. Yes, thank you. Thank you for the comment from the center.
Thank you, Ajahn. I want to ask a question about unprofitable questions. And apologies for going back to rebirth, but for me, rebirth kind of fits into that category of an unprofitable question. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, so can you please expand on that a little bit?
Well, like some of the unprofitable questions is, do I exist? Do I not exist? Is there a self? Is there not a self?
Yeah.
Is there rebirth? Is there not rebirth?
Yeah, and it sort of goes into that idea of like, well, do you think I can be Buddhist, and not believe in rebirth? It's sort of like, it's really like, it's unprofitable. What are you talking about? Of course you can. It's like, well, I'm not going to practice kindness before I know there's rebirth. I'm not going to meditate before I know I'm rebirth. You don't like become sort of member abiding, Buddhist society until like, and then, or we need you to be the sort of, this is how you are as a Buddhist. That, don't take it as a label. Again, it was like same with the Buddhism. We don't need to protect anything about the Dhamma. You don't need to protect. This is not a religion we need to fight for or hold on to it. This is a raft. It's a tool to use for us to, to lessen the suffering. And these teachings, whether you believe them or not, you could say that they exist. Suffering exists. And the same way with the idea of that the raft, that we don't need to sort of like put it on the shrine and just worship that that raft. It doesn't work that way. You need to use it. So you use the teachings to your own benefit, and you try to make see that how it's working in your own life. And then there's like, it is in that sense, unprofitable. Yeah, it goes a little bit into that sort of like, it's nice to talk about it, but if you would say like, and unfortunately, literally I've seen one person that they just couldn't square up that idea of rebirth, and then like I went to that teach in that town when I met this person previous year, and then I said, well, are we gonna go and visit him? And they said, no, he's not a Buddhist anymore. He just couldn't believe in rebirth. I was like, what? What's his problem? It's sort of he's grabbing the stick from the wrong end. This is like, you don't have to believe in rebirth. Honestly, you don't. A lot of these things are just sort of, so don't take them in that sense. Yeah, that's wrong way of taking the teachings.
Yeah, could I say that contentment is a root cause of right view as well, instead of renunciation?
There's synonyms actually. To be contented and easily satisfied it is actually synonym of that is contentment. You're satisfied. It's the same word. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So you can say that. That's a correct way of looking at it. And then you can see that, like, you think about your own life. You're content with little. What it means that it's just don't work so hard. Don't do overtime. Whatever you earn, good enough. Don't take. If your boss gives you, it's like, oh, I'm going to promote you. It's like, no. I want to be staying here. I want an easy life. I know people who have done that. And then I think it's a smart way of doing things. Yeah.
Ajahn, you want to check the online questions?
I could. I don't know how to open this thingy.
Is that open?
Press home. Oh, okay. Question 1. Ajahn, you mentioned that mano is the same as chitta, as vijnana is vijnana is the same, meaning mind. But I thought vijnana plus sanya plus vedana plus will is mind. I mean that these 4 khandhas were the mind and not vijnana alone. So what is the mind? I don't know. It is true. I mean, again, what I'm trying to say that in this sense, what's used here, that they're very closely associating into being the same thing. That it's a wrong view to say that there is a permanent essence somewhere. That is vijnana, sanya, and vedana. Whether you add the will in there, that there's like the 4 khandhas. Yes, it's vijnana alone is not nothing per se. But so, not to go too deep in there, and again, just like you to tease apart how do you use these different words in different contexts. Yes, you can write a PhD about that, and what does it mean, and how you can analyze it. But in that context, what I was just trying to say very simply, that Buddha gave this, whether you call it the mano, whether you call it vijnana, whether you call it chitta, it's impermanent. It's ever changing. There's no you in somewhere. What he was trying to say in there, that what do you call these things? Like, you could say that it's like we would say a soul. If you translated one of those words as a soul, it is a wrong view. To think that there's permanence in any of these things, that is a wrong view. So if you take whether you call it chitta or mano or vijnana, to take as a somehow permanent essence is a wrong view. That's what I was trying to say there. Okay. The doctor is prescribing something. Should we continue what the doctor is saying? The 5 basic fetters. Here, one who has not seen the Dhamma, the teachings of Puthujjana, abides with the mind addicted and attached to a view of a permanent essence, and they do not even seek an escape from the long-standing wrong view of a permanent essence. When that wrong view of a permanent essence has become habitual, it is regarded as a basic feather. One who abides with the mind addicted and attached to skeptical doubt, to believe in rites and rituals as sufficient in themselves to reach awakening, to desire for the 5 senses, to aversion, and they do not even seek an escape from these states, then these 5 states have become habitual and they are regarded as the 5 basic feathers. So not going too far there. So Puthujjana here means somebody who's not enlightened. So if you think that there is a permanent essence somewhere, and soul, and then and you don't really see the suffering because of this view, then that is a yoke which keeps pulling you back in from life to life. It's a basic habitual feather. And the interesting thing is that there's skeptical doubt. People say like I'm doubting about these teachings. We talked about it yesterday quite a lot about this doubt. It's like I don't believe in rebirth is okay. I have problem with what did you say? This kind of how the universe started, all those things. What's the fancy word for that? Huh? Cosmology. What's the origin story? There's a word for that as well. Genesis, like all those like things, like it's in the suttas. I can't believe in the Genesis stories and all those things. Like, again, I mean, that is not really the skeptical doubt. It's this kind of skeptical doubt is different. It goes really deep, but these things can feel that kind of doubt a little bit. It's sort of like, this doubt is deeper, what the Buddha was talking about. The next word here, in belief in rites and rituals, and then Ajahn Brahma's put in bracket, as sufficient in themselves to reach awakening. This is where the word sila appears again. And then, but the right way of to translate it, which is nice here, there's the rites and rituals. Again, a lot of Buddhist circles. What are we doing? Lighting cans on incense sticks. Is that enough for you to go into the temple and go, may I be well, and then I'm going to go gambling? Is that enough for you to reach the enlightenment? Perhaps not. Maybe it's a little bit good, there's a start in there. And it is like in themselves to reach awakening. Look, we have things like what we do is, we do the chanting, we light the incense and the candles, and then we have these rites and rituals. It acts as a reminder. It's like it gives us this, like, this is what we've been doing for so long, and it sort of like gives us like what would you saying? It gives us this kind of like tradition, so to speak. In themselves, it's not sufficient to reach awakening. So you have to walk the walk, so to speak. You have to do the practice yourself, right? You need to meditate yourself. You need to practice your, keep your sila, your kindness, your morality. Everything in the Eightfold Path is supporting you reaching. The tree is leaning towards Nibbana. The rites and rituals are not enough. So even if, and maybe their meditation goes into the same thing. Could you see that would be just the ritual if you just meditate? Is meditation enough by itself to reach awakening? Nothing else matters. It becomes ritual. Mindfulness practices alone is not enough. It's not enough. You cannot just be mindful, more and more mindful, as if you could be aware throughout your whole life. Just sort of like have this really, really strong mindfulness practice. It's not enough in itself. It becomes a ritual or rite. The desire for the five senses, we talked about, talked quite a bit about this desire for the five senses. You are attached to the world. You need to start turning away from the world, and that's part of this, what happens with this practice. You start moving away, the turning away happens, and then you start, even this kind of idea, we talked about contentment here, right? You're easily satisfied, content. That is actually a sign of turning away from the world. You don't need to go shopping all the time. You don't need to wear makeup. You don't need to buy most expensive things. You are, satisfied with the world, with basic things. To aversion, yeah. So whatever you see in the world, you don't either hold it or you don't push it away. You see, even aversion. Nobody wants to see old people. I'm sorry to say. Everybody wants to see young, beautiful people, right? That is just the reality. Nobody wants to see sickness. But it is within us. So that's why this enlightenment happens in this body and this mind. We can see the suffering. We don't have aversion towards our own mind or our own body. We don't sort of push it away. We just said, I can see I have suffering in my mind and my body. And we don't have aversion. Instead of we have compassion towards ourselves. And that's one of the reasons why people cannot meditate. They have aversion towards their breath. You don't like to see your breath. You don't like yourself. That's really a basic fetter, if you even don't like yourself. Unwise contemplations. One who has not seen the Dhamma, a Puthujjana, does not understand that what things are fit for contemplation and what things are not. And what things are not. Hang on, let me read it again. Does not understand what things are fit for contemplation and what things are not fit for contemplation. Thus they contemplate on those things unfit for attention and not those things fit for attention. Okay, so we have to go there. This is how you contemplate unwisely. Did my permanent essence exist in the past? Did my permanent essence not exist in the past? We talked about this, yes. Is there rebirth? What was my permanent essence in the past? How was my permanent essence in the past? Having been what? What did my permanent essence become in the past? Shall my permanent essence be in the future? Shall my permanent essence not be in the future? What shall my permanent essence be in the future? How shall my permanent essence be in the future? Having been what? What shall my permanent essence become in the future? Or else you are inwardly perplexed about the present thus. Is this my permanent essence? Is this not my permanent essence? What is this permanent essence? Is this permanent essence? Where has this permanent essence come from? Where will it go? So this is exactly what we talked about. Yes, I didn't remember it was here, but this is what the Buddha was really saying, and it's one of those speculative views, or sort of like it's really difficult to get that past the idea that there is a permanent essence. We all the time when we trying to solve this problem of like what the Buddha was teaching, we coming into this kind of like as if there is self. Whether we talk about is there free will? Does the free will belong to you? We always coming from this point of view. There is some kind of essence. There is a me somewhere there. And then this kind of the idea of like when we talk about rebirth process and all that, we always coming into this thinking about it through that this is what gets reborn. It's me, right? This is who I am. I don't know where me exists, but I'm sure it will be just me, like I'm me here now. And in all practical means, that's what you can say. It's like people like, what does get reborn? It is you as you are now, you get reborn. But there is no permanent essence there. It's not that there is a core somewhere there. But as far as you are you now, you're not outside of that anything. The mind is supported, whatever supports the mind now, and it comes and goes, is ever changing. The same, that kind of thing, that process continues. So the easiest way, the best way to understand that human life, every like conditioned things are just ever changing. There's this kind of cohesive movement all the time. It's like an idea, it comes and goes, it changes. But there is no like core thing in there. And that thing, what keeps evolving right now, the same way it continues evolving, death doesn't end it. There is no core, permanent essence anywhere there. So it's like, how do you see what your future will be? You see what you are now. That's what your future will be. So you keep practicing compassion, kindness, meditation, you become more at ease with yourself. What you reap is that kind of easiness in the future. You keep trying to understand Buddhist teachings, your interest grows, that interest will continue from life to life. So if you, sometimes we call some people, not mention any nationalities, but there's some people who come on Vesak, they come to the temple. We call them Vesak Buddhists. Is that enough to have interest in the next life? to be a Vesak Buddhist. You go to temple once a year. You do your ritual, offering, and that's good enough. I'm Buddhist. What are you? Look, I'm an amulet-wearing Buddhist. Therefore, I'm a Buddhist. Amulets protects me. I go once a year, I go to the temple. I get reborn as a Buddhist. Maybe. What about the other habits you are developing in life? You're eating sausage rolls for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You are enjoying the Australian weather. You look at Aussie rules. No, your habit is you become an Aussie. That's what your habit is. That's what the tree is turning into. Buddhism is sort of secondary in your life. It's not enough interest there to go once a year to the temple. So that is sort of like wherever your interest lies, that's what you are is making yourself in the future. It is just all conditioning. We're changing conditioning, and that's what we're doing as sort of practicing Buddhists, so to speak. This is all just we are conditioned beings, and if you are interested about this thing, that's what changes your conditioning. And then you pass away, you will die. Will you find the Buddha's teaching again? It depends on that conditioning. So if you have this kind of like, oh, this is important, this is actually, I should put effort into it, it's like, oh, I find this fascinating, interesting. And then when you find that again, the interest comes back to you. So there is a bit of, sometimes I feel that even for me, it's like, will I find the Dhamma again? It might take a long time. So I just have to better make sure that I put myself in the right place and, hang out with good friends. The 6 views about permanent essence. When you attend unwisely in this way, one of the 6 views arise in you. Well, number 1, the view, I possess a permanent essence arises in you, true and established. Number 2, or the view, I possess no permanent essence, only a material body whose conscious life is mere byproduct of brain arises you as a true and established. Or number 3, the view, I know the permanent essence with the permanent essence, I know therefore I am arises you true and established. Or number 4, I perceive there is no permanent essence with the permanent essence arises you in the true as an established. The permanent essence is, but it cannot be known. Number 5, I perceive a permanent essence with what is without a permanent essence arises you as a true and established. The 5 khandhas, what constitutes a body and mind, can no original mind exist in outside of 5 khandhas. Or else, some such view as this, it is this permanent essence of mind that speaks and feels and experiences here and there the result of good and bad actions. But this permanent essence of mind is permanent, everlasting, eternal, not subject to change, and it will endure as long as eternity. Where's the next wrong views? Oh, okay, so we're just going to... Oh, of course, it's 6. What am I talking about? So, these are the basic views in the world. As like everybody, when you talk to anybody you know, it's like, so who are you? Well, there's nothing there. It's just I'm just a body. The body dies. Everything is gone. I come from nowhere. I live this life. I die, and I disappear. A mere byproduct of the brain. And number 2, that's the view. And then the knowing part, because there is this knowing of existence. Because of I know, therefore I am is another very common way of looking at things. But the interesting thing is that number 5, the number 5 has become, unfortunately, a bit rooted in some Buddhist circles as well. That there is this kind of a mind. I don't understand how they justify it. It's almost because it gets so this view of original mind, that there is I perceive a permanent essence with what is without a permanent essence. And it's like something, your conditioned things can know this original mind. I don't understand how they see this different from a soul, but they do, explain it very smartly in some Buddhist circles. But there is, as if, and you can come even to this understanding if you don't have enough training, if you meditate deeply and you get into this kind of point where the mind is free from the defilement, so to speak, and you start seeing the mind as there is that, what arises is that kind of feeling of pure love, almost like being unitive with God and all those things. And then you really see your mind purified, so to speak, first time. It's still not permanent, but you could perhaps come to that idea. But then there is in some Buddhist circles just saying that there is this idea of original mind, but Buddha said clearly it is a wrong view. But again, I mean, this just describes, the Buddha gives this description of what would ordinary people consider as a self. And Buddha doesn't fall into any of these views. The Buddha describes it as the middle way, which is, let's see if I can find the middle way. Oh, it's the next one. How convenient. The two extremes and the middle doctrine. Venerable Sir, it is that right view. Right view. In what way there is right view? This world Gacchana mostly depends on duality, a Bana theory of existence and theory of non-existence. But one who sees the origin of phenomena as it really is, there is no idea of non-existence of the world. And for one who sees the cessation of phenomena as it really is, there is no idea of existence in the world. Most people attach to one of these wrong views, but one with the right view disengages from such a dualistic theories about my permanent essence. You have no perplexity or doubt that what arises is only suffering arising, and what ceases is only suffering ceasing. Your knowledge about this is independent of mere belief and acceptance. In this way, there is right view. Phenomena exist is one extreme. Phenomena do not exist is the second extreme. Without veering to either one of these extremes, the Buddha teaches the Dhamma by the middle, with delusion as the cause, volition arises, and so forth. If there was a permanent essence, would there be what belongs to a permanent essence, its attributes? Yes, Venerable Sir. Or if there were that belongs to permanent essence, would there be a belongs to permanent essence? Would there be a permanent essence? Yes, sir. Since a permanent essence and any attributes of permanent essence are not apprehended as true and established, then this true basic belief, namely, this is permanent essence, this is the world after death. After death, I shall be permanent, everlasting, eternal, not subject to change. I shall endure as long as eternity. Would it not be an utterly and completely foolish belief? Such as speculative beliefs are called thicket of views, a wilderness of views, the contortion of views, the procrastination of views, the fetter of views. Shackled by the feather views, the unawakened person is not freed from birth, old age, and death, from sorrow, lamentation, pain, unhappiness, and distress. They are not freed from suffering, I say. Wow. So in Buddhism, we don't teach that you don't exist. You do exist, right? You do exist. You are you as you are you. But you don't exist. Not permanently. It is this changeability what makes the difference here. All the time changing. It's like an idea. it's never like everlasting. But there's like this idea of duality, as you would say, that you don't exist or you exist. These are extremes. Buddha teaches the middle way. There is no permanent essence. That is really the key thing here as a sort of what we're trying to come to understand. And by following the Eightfold Path, we are going towards that more and more. We start seeing this kind of conditionality all the time. We change our perception of the world. We don't hold on to ideas of too much about, oh, this person is that, I'm like this, as if there is permanently something you or them. So this is the idea of like dualistic theories. And some Buddhist circles or traditions, this idea of dualism has been really taken into it's a big part of that way they teach. But I think they're taking it a bit too far. This is just that Buddha really, when he talked about dualism, it's about whether there is permanent essence or not. It's whether it talks about these kind of two extremes of existence. A nice thing there, the Buddha teaches the Dhamma by the middle with the delusions, a cause, volition arises, and so forth. Everything is causes and conditions. When you start saying it's just when this comes to be, that from that something arises. So we have causes, and from the causes something arises. So we cannot say that there's like this essence somewhere. And interesting thing about these speculative beliefs, what the Buddha is using here. A lot of these views are, it's really like the thicket of views. It really describes, and the procrastination of views. The fetter is really, it holds you back. It takes you back into this the rebirth. You don't even look for escape from it. It's like it's beyond you. It holds you back so strongly, and then that's a lot of these synonyms describe that. So you're like shackled. You are in. You're not freed. Let me read until the views there. And then that ends the morning. The unawakened worldling might experience revulsion, nibbida, from this body. Let its importance fade away and be liberated from it. Because, why? Because growth and decay are seen in this body. Moreover, it is born and it dies. But what is called the mind or mentality or consciousness, the unawakened worldling is unable to experience revulsion towards it. Let its importance fade away and be liberated from it. Why? Because for a long time you have held, appropriated and grasped the wrong view. This chitta or mind or consciousness, whatever you call it, it is mine. This I am, this is the permanent essence. And then we go into that, what we talked about earlier, the simile of the fire. Suppose a fire was burning in front of you. Would you know that fire was burning in front of you? If someone asks you what this fire burned in dependence on, how would you answer? You would answer that the fire was burning in dependence on the fuel of grass and sticks. If the fire was extinguished, nipputo, would you know that the fire was extinguished? Yes. If somebody then asks you where that fire went when it was extinguished, did it go east, west, north, or south? How would you answer? That question makes no sense. That fire burned in dependence on its fuel of grass and sticks. When that was used up, not getting any more fuel, it became extinguished. It didn't go anywhere. So too, where does an awakened one go after their death? This question makes no sense. So you always have to comes back to the duality. What are you? You are dependent on the fire, on what your conditionality. So then what goes from life to life? It is just these conditions, and what supports is really, it's your kamma is your support. What you take from life to life, not you per se, but these kind of like your actions, or the results from your actions are shaping your mind. It's difficult to see how we are shaped. Like we go and you think it's like, I'm making free choices. I'm choose to be vegan. But it's actually, all of these things are conditioned. We think we choose to be Buddhist, but it is just conditioned again. All of these things, same with going towards ending of all of these things, it is just come from conditioning. So whatever the fuel is, that supports your mind, and when that fuel ends, the five khandhas coming to an end, there is nothing which gets, it's just an idea coming to an end. You don't ask, where did that idea go? That question makes no sense. Okay, I'm going to end there without going too deep into this, because it is my lunchtime. So we'll continue after lunch, 12 o'clock. If you wish, please come back. Thank you so much for the morning.